might have a gig that you might want to go to on Thursday, because we're about to hear from a drum and bass MC turned singer-songwriter that's performed at some of the UK's biggest festivals, including the likes of Glastonbury, Green Man, the list goes on and on and on. This is the Undercover Hippy.
If I didn't have a boyfriend, yeah, yeah, oh, I could be your friend, whoa, whoa, if I didn't have a boyfriend, yeah, yeah, but I do, so I've got to keep my hands off you.
That's a little snippet of the Undercover Hippy and Boyfriend. Billy Rowan is said hippie and has decided to come to Shrewsbury to Albert Shed on Thursday. And he joins me now. Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Now, going from a drum and bass MC to something completely different is a bit of a career change, isn't it?
Yeah, it was more of a kind of a transition, really. I was doing my drum and bass MCing at the time. I was living out in Singapore. And then I went traveling for a year. And obviously, while I was away traveling, I couldn't really do any drum and bass stuff. So I bought myself a little travel guitar, and I learned to play the guitar as a kid. And I kind of picked up the guitar again and learned a few chords, and then realized I didn't know any songs. So I just started doing my MCing, but over a few chords on the guitar. And people seemed to like it. So I started, turning those into songs, and gradually it just evolved from that.
What was the music scene like in Singapore? Did you get plenty of gig opportunities there?
It was pretty underground, to be honest. Yeah, it was like drum and bass was a very, very kind of niche thing at the time. Well, it was pretty niche everywhere, really, but in Singapore especially. But yeah, you'd go to these like mad drum and bass nights that would be in a shopping centre at night, and it would all be closed, and then you'd go down all these little corridors and suddenly go into this bar or this venue, and then all these youngsters dancing like nutters. Yeah.
And when you're an MC and you're communicating with people who don't necessarily speak the same language as you, how does that affect it?
They all speak English in Singapore. Well, they speak Singlish, which is their version of English with kind of Chinese grammar and Malay words, and it's like a mishmash.
Okay. What took you there?
I got a job as a lecturer teaching 3D animation out of university. Yeah.
So when you decided, right, I'm going to have a year out, was that with a view to kind of looking at everything, career, music, all of it? Because a lot of the time people take a year out when they need a bit of space to think.
Yeah, I mean, I never planned to stay in Singapore long term. I was going to kind of do my 2-year contract there and then go traveling. I didn't have any money at the time, so I thought, I really want to go traveling. I'll go and do this job for a couple of years. But I at the time, I had no intention of becoming a full-time musician. I thought I was going to go and work for Pixar and become an animator or something. And then after like a year of traveling and writing these songs and performing them to people just around campfires or in guest houses or open mics and stuff, and seeing the response I was getting from that, I started to think about it more as a real possibility. And then I think I went back to England for a bit and stayed at my mum's house while I was figuring out what to do, and ended up just recording this little demo CD of the songs that I'd written. And then I went traveling again and took this demo CD with me, and I just copy a bunch of copies of it in internet cafes and then take them to open mics and flog them to people at the open mics. And I was making enough money to pay my way and pay my food and my hotels and stuff because, it's quite cheap out in Asia. And, that gave me a little inkling of, okay, this is a real thing. You can get people to give you money for doing this. So, yeah.
How easy is it to travel? And I'm thinking kind of traditional backpacking with a guitar. I know you said travel guitar, but how big's that?
Well, first of all, I was traveling with a tiny guitar called a guitarlele, which is really small, which, is kind of like about twice the size of a ukulele, I guess. Just a really small classical guitar. But the second time when I went back, because I thought, I need to be able to perform now, I took, a normal guitar. Yeah, it's a little bit of hassle, but not really. I mean, it did take a bit of a battering. I've still got that guitar now, but it's been like strapped to the roofs of many Indian buses and thrown in the back of,
I was going to say, I'm imagining something with kind of most of the paintwork gone and stickers and travel stuff all over the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of worn away. The front soundboard of the guitar is kind of from so many years of scratched plectrum use. And I think it's got a hole in the back from when I was playing on a beach in Goa and didn't realise that the arm of the chair that I was sitting at had like the plastic bit missing, and I was just scraping my guitar drunkenly into this metal spike for about an hour.
Although that sounds idyllic. Anything on a beach in Goa sounds great.
Yeah, it was great actually.
When you are travelling around somewhere like Asia, where not only is the culture but the musical culture so different, do you kind of draw on bits of local music culture and find yourself starting to write songs that sound a bit exotic?
Yeah, definitely. My first full album, actually, Monkey Suit, I wrote a lot of the songs in that when I was out traveling in the Gambia in West Africa. And I ended up making friends with like loads of local guys who were all musicians, and a lot of them are really into reggae music, and they're kind of reggae singers and producers and stuff. And I ended up hanging out with them for about 3 months and putting on big events with them and performing with them, and then taking on a lot of influence from what they were doing, and it definitely influenced that album in a big way.
So the tactic was then earn enough money to almost pay you travel to the next place?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, for a long time I was traveling at least every other year and using that as an opportunity to write. Because I find it quite hard to write when I'm in the UK, because there always seems to be something that seems really important to do that involves sitting at my computer and staring at a screen, especially when you're kind of self-managing and self-promoting and all of these things. There's like a million emails and there's a million social media things to update, and you can always tell yourself, I don't have time to write now, I've got to do this. Whereas when you're kind of on the road and traveling, then that all just falls into the background. You just go, well, I don't care about my emails. They can keep emailing me.
Yeah.
I'm on a beach, I'm going to write a song.
When you kind of start in music here, the apprenticeship has always been, I don't know, small clubs, working men's clubs, bars, things like that. When you're kind of touring the world and you're looking for a gig in the Gambia, having just rocked up into the country, how on earth do you find the right people and the right places? Is it easy?
Oh, I don't know. In the Gambia, it was all just luck, really. I went out there because I was randomly invited to by someone on my mailing list who, just responded to a kind of a joke that I made in one of my email mail-outs saying, oh, I'm sorry that if you live somewhere like far-flung and I keep telling you about all these gigs in England, feel free to invite me somewhere else. And this guy got in touch and said, oh, I've just bought this little plot of land in the Gambia and there's nothing on it apart from a few tents and a little kind of kitchen, like lean-to shelter, but you're welcome to come and stay, and there's this festival happening and blah blah blah, and I just thought, yeah, you just have to say yes to these random opportunities and see what they come to. So yeah, that's how it all started.
That must give you an amazing insight into the locality, because when you go as a tourist, you have sort of a surface level experience. As soon as you start working with people there, you get a slightly deeper perspective, don't you? Yeah,
completely. I mean, I think only once in those 3 months did I go to the tourist kind of area in the Gambia. Like, one of my local friends, in fact, kind of insisted, oh, you've got to come and see this place. You've got to come and see this place. You'll really like it. And then got there and just absolutely hated it, because it was just like Magaluf or something, But yeah, the place I was staying was just village in the middle of nowhere, like no electricity. It's pitch black at night. And then I ended up moving from there to this little town nearby where all these local guys that I'd met. I met all the guys at a festival. So the guy whose land I was staying on was an English guy called Peter, and he took me to this music festival, like local music festival, not like kind of, like one of our music festivals. And there I met like a lot of these young guys some of them who are musicians, and they invited me to come to this town, the next kind of town along. And then once I got there, they were just like, look, you're our guest, Billy, stay in my house, you can sleep in my bed, like you're our guest now, just hang out here. And so I did, and it was great. Particularly
in a country where I imagine that there's quite a lot of deprivation. What do you learn about yourself and the world when you're traveling through and working with people in some quite remote places?
Yeah, I mean, it's always challenging because you are rich essentially, even though I didn't have much money at all in relative terms.
Yeah.
In terms of the kind of disposable income that I've taken this money and I've got this budget to spend. So yeah, you kind of have to accept that and just realize, okay, I am the well-off person in the situation. And I just told my friends, look, I've got a budget of this much a day. It's not that much, but if we need to get some food while we're out or whatever, then we can spend that money. And if it's enough to buy everyone dinner, then great, we'll spend it. But I haven't got more than that to spend, so I was just kind of upfront and clear about what I had and what we could do with it.
Makes it hard to kind of be the complaining sort of jobbing musician, doesn't it? It makes it must feel like an immense privilege as well.
Yeah. I mean, none of us were really earning any money from doing music out there. Most of it, we put on like a couple of events, which were quite amazing, really. Just like in the town, kind of on a junction in the like neighborhood, built a stage out of wood from the bush. Had to like go into the bush, cut down loads of like trees and lash them all together into a stage, and then invite all the kind of local dignitaries and give them seats to sit close to the stage and hope that they'll give like donations that then pay for the rest of the event. And yeah, it was fascinating insight into how things worked over there.
It's a great crash course in local politics as much as anything, isn't it? Has lockdown been a massive nightmare for you then? Not just that you can't gig, but you couldn't go anywhere.
Oh, lockdown's been absolutely rubbish. Mainly because of just my work. Like it's basically 2 whole years that I've not been able to do anything.
Yeah.
Like the last tour I did was in 2019, autumn 2019. And then, I normally work over the winter. I was kind of working, recording and doing stuff. And then in the spring, we were just about to go on tour and COVID hit literally like as we were about to set off. So, yeah. And then since then, every rescheduled show we've had has been cancelled. So it's amazing to finally be doing all of these gigs that I've just repeatedly rescheduled. It kind of became like a full-time job, just cancelling and rescheduling gigs.
Were you rusty when you went back to it, or did it feel natural?
God, yeah. No, I was so rusty. I've actually only just like reached the point now where I'm relaxed during the gigs. Like for the first, 10 gigs or 5 gigs or something, every gig I'd be kind of just so tense as I was trying to sing the songs, because I'd suddenly forget the lyrics or forget what I was supposed to be playing, or because it's all just this muscle memory that after a while it becomes second nature. And now it's all there, and it's flowing really easily.
Because you talk with a band, don't you? Which must be quite nice, bit of company rather than you've done a lot of travelling on your own, I imagine.
Yeah, I've done mostly travelled on my own. Yeah, I love touring with the band. I do solo tours as well. So I do like a solo tour usually in the spring, in like, February, March, and then I do a full band tour in April. And yes, I much prefer touring with the band. It's great fun. You get lots of laughs and lots of company. It's great.
What do you write about generally? Because, as somebody who is clearly interested enough in the world to go out and explore it, what do you find yourself turning to in terms of subject matter more often than not?
I mean, the majority of my songs are very political. Social commentary and political commentary are what I tend to always revert to. And just trying to get across kind of complex ideas in simple songs. I guess that's my USP. Trying to cram an essay into a 4-minute song, essentially.
And a lot of it's quite reggae infused, and reggae has quite a long history of that, doesn't it? It's a medium, absolutely. I guess, that lends itself to it, whether it's just a culture of that or, I don't know, whether there's something ingrained in it that lends itself to, as you say, fitting a dissertation into a pop song. Yeah,
I mean, it definitely is. Reggae kind of stems from Rastafarian culture, which is a culture of, political protest, essentially, against, the ruling class and the status quo. So there's definitely, there's a lot of history to draw on in terms of doing that kind of protest music with reggae.
I speak to a lot of musicians and they sort of say, look, touring is vital in terms of making money from music because, streaming doesn't really help you. Just having your livelihood back must be a relief.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was very lucky. I got the self-employed income support scheme from the government, which, covered everything that I needed. So I wasn't kind of struggling financially. A lot of my friends were, though. A lot of musicians are kind of living hand to mouth a lot of the time. And, especially if you've been doing kind of cash in hand gigs and stuff like that, and you're not really on top of your accounting and those kinds of things, then the self-employed income support scheme didn't really help them. My bass player had to get a job with Sainsbury's being a delivery driver. Various other band members, had to just quit music and start doing other things.
What's next for you now it is getting all going again? Have you got a part of the world that you want to go and see, or are you happy kind of touring the length and breadth of this country at the moment?
So my plans, we've got a tour in Germany booked in May, which again has been rescheduled like 3 times. It was supposed to be in spring 2020. So hopefully that's going to go ahead. It's all becoming a bit complicated because of Brexit, and there's loads of extra costs now that are kind of piling up with carnets, which is like a passport you have to pay for all your equipment, and visas and VAT on merch, and there's like just all these extra little bits and pieces that are making it less viable for musicians to tour in Europe. But hopefully that will go ahead. And we'll be working on a new album as well over the winter, getting that recorded. We'll be touring another UK tour in the spring in April, and then an album launch tour next year in October. But I really want to go to tour Australia. That would be a great one, to be able to like run away for the winter, but also be touring and making money and playing big gigs. So that's it's been something we've been looking into for a while, but it's a tricky one because it's expensive to get out there, especially if you're taking a whole band and all the rest of it.
It might just be you and the guitar lady in the outback then.
Well, potentially. That is one plan, to send me out there as a kind of advanced scouting party, to play a bunch of solo gigs and try and build a name.
For every gig, you can fly out one band member at a time.
Exactly, yeah. That'll be the one. Yeah, every few weeks I'll just save up my money and then send back another ticket.
Yeah. Look, Billy, it's lovely to talk to you. Thanks a lot for coming on. It's been great to hear from you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the show at Albert's Shed on Thursday. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Billy, thank you very much. That's Billy Rowan, the Undercover Hippy, and he is, as he says, at Albert's Shed in Shrewsbury on Thursday night. So you can get tickets from his website. You can get them from Albert's Shed as well. So no reason not to go and sample something a little bit different from a drum and bass MC turned reggae-infused singer-songwriter and somebody with just fascinating stories to tell.